One of the great advantages of being at stage is that you don't have to wear a mask. Okay, so each one of us comes here with agenda and what kicks them, in their business. And I've been at Checkpoint 26 years, and I can say definitely that what makes me run is the need to help customers prevent attacks. So when we speak about security and when we speak about the customer challenges, we have to realize that the first mission for the security defenders is to stop the attack. Then we could also do a lot of threat hunting and actors analysis and all kinds of things, but the primary goal is to stop the attacks. And with that in mind, I decided to take you along the journey of ransomware and how it went from CryptoLocker that tried to steal 300 people from individual by encrypting their pictures into ransomware that is tied into nation-state attacks with supply chains attacks all together. And I think it all starts by the last, let's say, year and a half. So as I said, I'm at Checkpoint 26 years, and yet the last year and a half with COVID and with all the transformation in IT and in the attacker landscape has been amazing, and I'll try to take you through some of this. Let's first look a bit about the numbers. So attacks are really at rise. We see over 1,000 organizations impacted every week. But more than that, we've seen about 100%, about double the growth of attacks in the past year. We've seen some spike when COVID started, and then it kind of a bit calmed down, but it's at a rise, and the rise continue, and the attackers are out there, and we will speak about the attacks themselves. We are in Israel, so I wanted to dedicate one slide to Israel as well. We have seen 124% attacks on Israel in growth of attacks on Israeli organizations, Israeli companies. More than that, an organization in Israel that gets attacked, we mean to say that in a week they may get 1,000 different attacks. That's a lot to cope with. And the only way to cope with this is really to stop these attacks, to have a better hygiene, and to deal with some more selective items as you need. In the past 12 months, we've seen over 300 companies in Israel that were attacked by ransomware. And this would be kind of the topic of my presentation. Plus, I would say that in the last 12 months, we've seen at least 10,000 organizations in the world that got attacked by ransomware. And when we see them, it means that we were involved in stopping some of them. I wouldn't know the extent of preventing the whole attack in each one of these companies, but in 10,000 companies in the past 12 months, we were involved in stopping attacks. So how does ransomware start? We have an incident response group. The group gets a call from company X. Company X got attacked by ransomware. They see the ransomware note. They are in very high stress. We start to analyze very quickly. Usually it would turn out to be Kerberos ticket that needs to be reset, identities that needs to be handled, etc. Immediately segregate what's already encrypted from what's not encrypted, stop everything to analyze where you are, and then spread around tools to see where it started from so it won't continue. In this particular case, after some analysis, Company X was really infiltrated through a VPN vulnerability that existed in one of the other VPN makers in the market, which is related to our topic with supply chain attacks. And unfortunately, they used the backup to recover their files, but we still had a lot to do in order to prevent and to clean the hygiene of the company in order to make sure that this doesn't happen again. As I said, I wanted to take you through the journey. So what started as, let's try to steal some money, $300 at a time, kind of financial, became a big business with a supply chain of the business itself, cooperation between partners, etc. We'll talk a bit about that. There is an aspect that still falls under ransomware, but is actually more a data theft and espionage. Lazarus Group, associated with North Korea, is associated with this, but there are many others, and we will talk about double extortion as a way to leverage ransomware. And then cyber terror and political influence. So we will talk about Paytokey and how it influenced the Israeli market. There is some fear and fight created in the streets that helps, either extract more money or help a political cause, and it's always disputable which is which. And finally, it's a cyber weapon. People do ransomware as a service, and they have partners that operate this ransomware as a service. At due time, they could say, it wasn't me, it was the partner, and that's a whole business by itself. If we look at the evolution, I'm going to run a bit faster, of ransomware in the world, started in 2013 with CryptoLocker. All they wanted really was $300 for somebody. Yes, it was very hard to get the Bitcoin to pay the $300, but that's not a big sum, and I better pay, etc., etc., and that was kind of the play game. The play game got to the big market with NotPetya and WannaCry in 2017, where it attacked the whole world. And what's typical here to attacks is that we see them early, we see them evolve, and we could foresee how they evolve going forward. So the first time that we've seen actually kind of a wide nation-state attack associated with a supply chain that did ransomware, or wiper, if you will, is NotPetya. NotPetya was attacking the world through attaching itself to an Ukrainian accountant tool, so it's a supply chain attacks. It was presumably associated to North Korea, and it was ransomware. Actually, it wasn't ransomware, it was a wiper, because there was no way to get the data, even if you were willing to pay the ransom. But that was kind of a big test that was sleepy for a while and returned big time in the last year and a half, and we will talk about this soon. Since then, people realized that nice to get $300 at a time, but why not get more? So we started in 2019 to see double extortion. What is double extortion? I collected your data, I encrypted your files. To restore your files, you have to pay me. But also I threaten to reveal your files to the world, and that's a double extortion. And if you won't pay me, I will open the data to the world. Recently, we also see triple extortion. What is triple extortion? I encrypted your data, and I have your data. I will threaten to publish your data, but I will also go to your customers and suppliers, etc., and I will threaten them to either threaten you to pay me, or I'll try to get more money from them. It really becomes very complicated. And if we look at the sums of money, we moved from $300 to $11 million paid by a meat company in the US, and all the way to a $40 million paid by an insurance company in the US. So the numbers are growing very fast, and it's a very reputable business, if you ask them. So that's somewhere great to be. I want to take you into 3 examples. The first one would be Paytokey. We came to know Paytokey in October in Checkpoint. Our research team, Checkpoint Research, identified the first Paytokey samples. We published them. We published the whole research. At that point, the world could have protected itself. Unfortunately, not all companies protected themselves against this ransomware, and we've seen this ransomware attacking multiple companies in Israel. If you remember November, December, Shearbit and some others, you could see the association for Paytokey. We also traced the money into Iranian association. So this is a nation state. You could also say it's a relatively low ransomware, maybe $100,000 or something. So you could start to see the dual motivation. Was the motivation really the money, or the motivation was really to scare the population in Israel? This is some of the things in these countries that you would never know the real intent behind it. And the ransomware really, really spread fast. If it got into an organization, it spread within an hour into the entire organization. So this is a political or a mixed motivation. It's certainly not just pure money, and the effect on Israel was certainly not of just a financial attack. They also did double extortion. Why not? It gives you more impact. And the victims were threatened by publishing their data, which went really live on a website, so it wasn't just empty threatening. And we traced the money, as I said, to an Iranian group. All of this is something that we should strive to stop, and that's one of my key messages. It's not easy to stop that. It's about the hygiene of your network, but as security defenders, it's our mission to stop. Pay a bit less attention to the threat hunting and to the understanding of every event that already happened, and invest a bit more in how you secure your network in the different elements that exist, either intrusion prevention systems, anti-ransomware dedicated tools, endpoint solutions that are holistic and take part from all the elements of your network. This was example number one, and I'll repeat this with two more examples that have two more lessons. So cassera, and see how quickly we moved to say this is the biggest after. So we had SolarWinds Sunburst attack just in end of last year, and we already had a big one since then, so we already count the time, and the time is decreasing between events. So cassera just happened 2 weeks ago, and cassera is a company that delivers vulnerability management tools for managed services. So if you are a managed service, you're using this tool to manage the patching on your clients. So you are a tool that by definition have privileged access to your clients' PCs, and by definition you are supposed to install patches on their PCs. What happened here is that the attackers used vulnerabilities inside the cassera software, hence supply chain attacks, into making an action on their customer usage. Motivation, so this was done in 4th of July, mainly attacking US spaces by a Russian group. One could say it's just for the money, another person would say it's to create scare, political reasons, etc. This is up to the audience to decide. This attack is associated with REvil, which is ransomware as a service. It ended up attacking more than 1,000 organizations in many countries, even though the center was in the US. And the ransom was between $50,000 to $5 million on this organization. The impact of the supply chain attack here is the ability for them to move very fast and to attack so many organizations at a glance. If they just understood how they could leverage cassera, they could take over everyone. In addition, they used the tool by Microsoft, kind of the Microsoft Defender tool, which came to defend. They used an old version of Microsoft Defender in order not to be noticed when encrypting your files. And they actually ended up using it to drop the ransomware and to encrypt your files. You could do many things to stop it, but the first part is the responsibility of the suppliers to protect their software. We should not have vulnerabilities. We should be very good to respond on security events, and we should make sure our customers are safe. If you are already there, you should apply more tools. You could apply a zero trust, but you could apply an endpoint solution. You could apply ransomware prevention tools. Our ransomware stopped the attack in few customer sites. This is a lot of hygiene and preparation that you have to do in order to protect yourself. Third example, Colonial Pipe. Well, this example is different because it's you could say, critical infrastructure. And where is the nation versus the critical infrastructure? Is it political or is it not? It's, in this case, it seems more financial than any other things. It attacked Colonial Pipe, which is responsible to about half of the energy fuel that is consumed in the East Coast. Colonial Pipe stopped its operation for a while in order to help to manage this situation. The FBI announced that this was Darkside related. Darkside is a ransomware as a service, as described before, a business that operates over selling ransomware. And they temporarily halted the operation of the network. They did pay $5 million. This company, the Darkside, develops ransomware as a service that is used by others. They have partners, so there is a supply chain of ransomware and partners. In this case, they claimed that the partner was the one doing the attack. Not only that, the attack was targeted on the non-operational part of Colonial Pipe. It was on the business side on Colonial Pipe. And they officially say, the Darkside, that they are kind of the good guys. They don't intend to stop the world. They only want money. So it's kind of completely financial driven. And in this case, there was an interesting side of the story that partial sum of this ransomware was collected back. So the FBI invested a lot in finding keys for these blockchain cryptocurrencies and retrieving, and they were able to retrieve about half of the money that the attackers were getting for this attack. So maybe it's a new front of how we deal with this. But again, in our story, all the surrounding is nice, but we have to stop the attacks. We have to make the preparation. We could be upfront with backup, with recovery plan, with incident response plan. But we also have to clean the hygiene of the network, understand that we have segmentation, multi-factor authentication. In this case, there were claims that the attack was done by some kind of a remote access into the Colonial Pipe. So make sure you handle the access to the network. Identify on the fly prevention tools for ransomware attacks, prevention tools for stopping attacks on endpoint, and other social engineering, links in emails, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that the world is demonstrating to us that when they find something interesting, they will multiply and multiply and multiply into new usages. So we've seen 2017, with supply chain and nation state, we see them more. The more these attacks succeed, the more we will see them. The world is learning from one incident to the other. That puts on us the responsibility to be cleaner and to be safer wherever we are. There are many things we could do. We could segment the network. We could deploy anti-ransomware that are dedicated to these type of attacks. But we have to deal with malware in general, remove malicious attachment, scan traffic, prevent users from clicking on bad links or opening bad attachments, block all kinds of infected machines, quarantine them, and prevent them from accessing the rest of the network. And yes, you also need to build some emergency plan, incident response, and understand how you are going to respond if something happens. But 90% of your energy should be to how your network has the right hygiene to stop the attacks in the first place, because these will come more and more, and the easier a target you'd be, the more you'd be infected. So you have to be able to run faster than others, block as much as you can, and be safe against many of these that are defendable. Thank you very much.
But before you leave, I have a question for you. Yep. We received several questions on the online platform, and we don't have the time for everything. I will ask you one question. I will try to combine 3 questions together. So the question that was, or the questions that were asked by Mr. Asaf Ahmed, and I have an additional question here. All talk about the fact there are many players right now in the ecosystem. If you are a company, you have so many cybersecurity solutions, you have so many things, it's very hard to manage everything. And the question is, what is your approach, what is Check Point approach towards connecting everything together or having this unified security management, or what should those different players do in order to maybe work better together?
Thank you. Very good question. So I tried not to make it kind of a checkpoint pitch today, but definitely we have our own answer. And as I said, we believe in prevention. We set our products to prevent attacks, and we have a platform that runs with kind of defenders in different sizes, either large enforcement points, small nano agents, native controls, or APIs, in order to stop attacks wherever you are. And we believe that our first mission is to stop the attacks. Then, on top of this, we give detection tools, we give research and analysis, and we help you with SOC and other tools to understand what happened in your cases. But we also believe that an industry player like us is responsible to help secure the supply chain and help keep the customers safe. So we invest a lot in security of ourselves. We also invest in research for others. Recently, we published a research of a well-known industry tools that could have been attacked as a supply chain attack by others. So we try to stop the attacks in different variants, as well as, obviously, with our platform that is unifying the network, the endpoint, the mobile, IoT, cloud, and more.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk
Thank you very much.
everything that you do for the Israeli ecosystem. Thank you.